Hello, everybody, and welcome to Just Talking with Ayesha Gwenda
Hello,
and myself. And this is
Gwenda Lambert.
Gwenda Lambert. Oh my God, yes, I can sing my own name too, can't I?
Absolutely.
And yeah, I need a shimmy though. I do need a shimmy. So this is a pre-recorded, by the way, because Ayesha, right now, when you're watching this, is delivering a fabulous conference down in the US of A, and we'll leave it at that. And she's going to be fabulous at it.
Thank you so
So, and actually, that's a great segue into what we're talking about this week, because we are talking about energetic balance, right? So this is like the last of the focus on balance. And when it comes to balance, we've been talking about the fact that, you can't always be working in the mire of past or things that are coming up. We need to be conscious of what we're doing and be able to give ourselves self-attention, which is a step deeper than self-care. It's when you are the attention. So you have to be the main focus of your life. So what we're talking about today specifically is the energy balance.
much.
So the big thing, again, when we're talking about self-attention, it's because when we go through any kind of process, or as a coach, as a teacher, as anybody, even when I used to teach aerobics, you can feel the difference between you going in and being a participant, which means you can be guided, and you going in as the instructor, as the facilitator, as the leader, as the person who has to be on. So it's not just remembering what it is that you're doing, it's being open to all the other cues that everybody else around you may be using. Maybe somebody pauses here. Maybe there's some body language. And I mean, these are getting into pernickety things, but the energy balance, like, I know Brendan Burchard talks about the health, like the ability to be on a stage for 3 or 4 days straight, bringing the energy. You need to be able to energetically fill your cup, fill your being, and plan for that. Actually, so plan for it, that if you're doing a day-long seminar, maybe it's the first time you're delivering it outside of a test audience, and maybe you don't know the people that are in the audience. Sometimes when we have return customers, that's a different kind of energy, but that's where we're going to start today. What do you think, Ayesha? What are your opening thoughts on this?
Well, Brent,
Frida,
I want to
just
say
call me
Brenda,
Frida.
but it's Gwenda. Gwenda, I got it. Gwenda. I always do that. I have my bestie's name is Brenda, and then when I talk to Gwenda, sometimes I call her Brenda, and sometimes I call her Gwenda.
There you
So
go.
anyway, yes, now that we've diverged from there, energetic balance. So let's talk about, yes, all the things you meant, what you said about delivering and sharing your energy with other people, and how we need to really manage it before we can give it away. And that's where I want to start with, is about the self-balance of energy. Is how often do you actually spend time looking at or thinking about what kind of energy do I have? A lot of us we keep bulldozing forward. It's like, oh, I'm exhausted, I don't have any energy, I don't have the time, and I don't have the bandwidth, and I don't have the brain cells. And those are the typical things that you hear people say, and that is all about energy. And we don't, as a society, by and large, global society, especially in Western civilizations, we don't allow ourselves that time to replenish and to get our energy back. And we really need to be able to do that. In some cultures, like South American cultures, East Asian cultures, South Asian cultures, for example, there's frequently the afternoon nap. There's that period of rest in the middle of the day. So they go later at night, but they give themselves that time even during a busy day to replenish and to come back. And it's because a lot of older cultures know the value of replenishing yourself before you give back to the community, or you do your job, or you take care of your kids. You have to be able to do that. Think about, in any relationship, when is the time that you experience the most challenges? When is the time when you have the most difficulty getting you know, meeting a challenge or working through a challenge, what is usually happening in your life at that time? So Gwen, what do you think? Like, have you experienced that where you're trying to get through stuff and you're just not able to do it? What are the factors that are at play for you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, I was talking about being a fitness instructor. The thing that I loved about when I was a fitness instructor, I had a commitment to other people. And so
Mm,
I'm just going to start on the fact that you talked about how we don't plan for it in the Western world. You know, people brag about only sleeping for 4 or 5 hours a night,
yeah.
which is absolutely, absolutely absurd. Um, but so like the fitness instructor, the great part about that is that my responsibility was to other people. So even if I didn't feel it 100%, I still went in and did my job. But on those days, I would take it easy before,
Yeah.
you know. And again, I bring it back to sports sometime, is like when you're training for your big race, when you're
Mm,
training for your big competition, you have a number of days before you compete where you don't do anything.
yeah.
And your body's going like, oh, but I'm used to doing this every single day. And it's like, okay, that's why we're building it up. It's like a pinball machine. Bing.
Yeah.
So if there is a time that you really want to shine, then don't do a lot for the days before. I know that when it comes to the grief recovery method, there's, a lot of it we talk about, there's 4 stages, like a discovery. And then before we get into the recovery component, there's a discovery and education process that can be done where it's like reading and what do you think? But when we get into the work, we literally plan it. And that's where it feels overwhelming. And we encourage people from the beginning, before things are going crazy. And this is
Mhm.
for people that we love too, right? You know, your spouse is coming up to a busy work time. They have a big presentation. That's not the time to make sure that they're emptying the dishwasher in the right way and taking out the garbage, right? So there has to be a balance. And even if people aren't doing it individually, especially in relationships, in friendships too, you know,
Mm,
there was an example recently that a miscommunication happened in a relationship that I had. And normally I wouldn't have said anything about it, but it was like I was in a low place. The other person is in a grieving place, which is, grief is like an emotional soup. And I didn't have the energy to be able to support that person in the way that I would have normally. And they're not in the place where they could notice that I wasn't able to support them in the way that I would normally do it. So that's where emotional honesty comes in, that we have to be able to say to ourselves, I'm feeling run down. I'm feeling low key. Women and your periods, my God. Okay, we're coming up to that time. So I think I'm going to, I'm going to run a marathon. It's like, no, I don't think that's, it's not necessarily a good idea to do
yeah.
that unless you're eating or you're getting nutrition or nutrients from somewhere else that is actually replenishing what you need in your body. So I know I took that mostly in a sports direction, but it's really important that we know when our battery's running low, that we know what kind of events take more energy. Because again, doing seminars, I love doing them, but you're on all the time because people are asking you questions. And so you're not just going from what you're presenting, you're actually going, oh, okay, so is this exactly what you mean? And okay, so here, does that make sense? Okay, there's more. So, to be on all the time also takes a certain amount of emotional commitment, and burning ourselves out is the worst thing that we can do. Not sleeping when you're presenting. If you have trouble sleeping, what do you do to get to bed? What are your routines to be able to anchor you to recharge those batteries? When I started having challenges with sleep, it blew my mind how many people don't sleep through the night or don't sleep more than 2 hours, 3 hours a night. Blows my mind. That's a huge, huge thing. So back to you, Aisha. I know I just unpacked a whole bunch of different stuff there.
Yeah, you did. And it's always good to touch on the different elements of the things that we're talking about, so we can, because they affect people in different ways, right? So coming back to the emotional honesty, I think is an important one that you touched on. And I think that it's also about just having the conversation with people to say, listen, I don't feel up to this right now. What can we do? Like, can you take care of this? Or, or maybe instead of offering to fix something for someone, just say, what do you need? And here's what I can give you, right? So, it's just, it's about having those conversations, because the other thing too is emotional honesty is important when we're talking about creating energetic balance, because when we don't honor our own voice, then that depletes our energy. When we don't say what we have to say, that depletes our energy. When we try and fix things for other people, that depletes our energy. So having emotional honesty really starts with yourself, is to say, really, what do I want out of this situation now? And that also requires permission, giving yourself that permission to say, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, this is how much I can do, this is what I can't do. And then sometimes you also have to deal with the blowback from people who want you to do more, who expect you to do more. And if you are in a position where you are constantly doing stuff for other people, like as a caregiver, for example, then when you put down some boundaries and you say, you know what, I can't do this, I'm not able to do this, and this, but I can do this, right? And then you're dealing with people's disappointment or their resentment or their unhappiness. That is also emotional pressure. So you do have to give yourself those moments. Allow yourself to say, what do I need to replenish myself? What do I need to be able to, come back to this conversation in a different way at a different time, right? And you may not come back with a different set of solutions, but you may have more emotional energy. You may have more wherewithal to actually be able to walk through it with more clarity. So when we're talking about energy and purposeful communication, what we're talking about is externally what you want to be is you want to be compassionate, you want to be fair, you want to be honest, you want to be helpful, right? Those are 4 elements of purposeful communication with other people. But in yourself, you want to be clear, you want to be concise, and you want to be conscious about what it is that you want, so that you're able to communicate those things. So creating energetic balance is a very layered process. And the thing to also remember is that it takes time and it takes work to get to that place where you can balance yourself, because you might start out saying, okay, I need this and I need that. But as things continue on, you might have to alter something. You might have to change something. Something might come up for you. Your availability might change. You need to kind of get in that habit of just being aware of what's happening in your environment and what the impact is on you. Because again, a lot of us are just bulldozing through what's happening on a daily basis, and we're not paying attention to what is the impact on us. And then subsequently, when we're impacted like that, what is the energy impact that we are creating for other people? So you might be short-tempered, you might not be able to finish your work, you might not have patience with your partner or your spouse or your friends, right? You might withdraw yourself because you feel overwhelmed. Like, all kinds of things are happening, and these are the dynamics. This is the flow of living. So how do we create energetic flow, right? You were talking about letting yourself do nothing. You're talking about making sure that you give yourself the time to do the things you need to do. But if you're not someone who has traditionally done that, even building up those habits is going to take time, right? Identifying that. What is the thing that gives me energy? What is the thing that depletes me? You might think, oh, you know what? I like going out with my friends. That gives me energy. But perhaps scheduling and working around everybody's stuff, and the expense of going out for a night and people not agreeing on where to go, maybe that stuff is going to deplete your energy, right? So it's looking at things on a wider scale, on a broader scale, and really recognizing what is giving you energy and what's not giving you energy. What do you think about that?
Oh, I completely agree 100%. I like, one of the things that, one of the things that takes practice, as you said, we need to get better at it, is that when you were telling that story, or one of the stories there, I was thinking of the last time I was triggered. And when I'm saying triggered, it's like post-traumatic stress, not just somebody irritating me. And that's okay, however you use words. But when I get triggered, I literally lose my frontal lobe. I can't initiate thought. And that's not just for a day. That's how I know that I'm better, is because it doesn't last for 6 months, or 2 months. It lasts, at that time, it lasted for probably a good month. But I had this trigger on the Monday, and on the Saturday, I was supposed to be doing a speech and getting it recorded. And what did I do? As we talk about bulldozing, oh no, oh yeah, I can do this. And then instead, I'm showing up, I really don't like this term, but I was not showing up as my best self. Worst of all, I did not have my own back. And also at the time, I don't think I really understood the difference, how it felt in my body when something's just, you know what, I need to plan for this. I can do this. This is developing a routine or a ritual before you do things that are going to take your energy. And I didn't understand the trauma side of it, although I thought I did at the time. I didn't understand what regulating this nervous system is, and there's some of these things that are really practical. There's a lot of people walking around that have trauma responses, and they don't even understand the kind of energy that takes out of us, because our body, our nervous system is going into fight or flight. So, that is an example. Instead, I went in, I was not in a good mood. I had paid for this, which was throwing away my money. So and it will never happen again, because that was at the end of that. I had one other trigger after that, where I committed to myself, when I feel this way, I'm taking myself out of commission. Showing self-love. So our energy balance, it's, sometimes you can use adrenaline and get yourself going and listen to certain music, but that's if it's just like pumping things up. So you've got to be able to know, and this is where the emotional honesty comes in. You have to be honest with yourself. Not like, okay, I can get through this, I'm going to be strong, but actually going, this doesn't feel the same way. So, and the energy part is all about how we feel. So is it butterflies, or is it anxiety? Like, is it like, oh, this is exciting, and oh, I hope I do a good job, sort of like you're feeling right now. So, right. And so that's natural and normal. You listen to any of the big actors, actresses. Elizabeth Taylor used to talk about how she always got butterflies when she went on. Usually when we're doing something we care about, we're going to get butterflies. We want them. We want to do well. But you have to know in your body the difference between butterflies and a different kind of message that's saying, no, man, you don't have the juice. You don't have the capability. And that's really where self-attention comes in. That do I know myself enough to know? And that's what I love about your program, or any of them, is that they build on each other, right? And it's about the 4 different mind, body, spiritual, all of this connection. Because the other thing is, especially like from the grief recovery standpoint, or talking about anything that's really deep and meaningful, that takes it out of you. That, you want to go through that. Well, you want to be taking, God, there was times where I was taking 2 or 3 baths a day, because that's what soothed me. So asking the question right now, do you know what soothes you? Do you know what makes you feel safe and secure and grounded? And, we need to be able to understand how to pull us down if we're anxious, and ground us, and lift ourselves up if we're in a depressive state, not depression. And there's a difference between depression and just being in a depressive state when you're like, just sort of like low energy. Then it's like, oh, well, where's this coming from? You know, has there been clues that I've been ignoring because I'm trying to be strong? Oh, I hate that phrase, you know, that I'm just going to suck it up. Well, you can go and present something and not be 1,000%, but that's the best that you can do that day. And you've got to be okay with that too. I hope
Yeah.
that makes sense. Thoughts? What do
Yeah,
you think?
absolutely. I think that, one of the most important things that you touched on just now is how we give more value to what we do than what we are, right? So when we stop doing that, when we stop putting the what we produce as being more valuable than what we are, how we are taking care of ourselves or how we feel, then that's where really the shift starts to happen, right? Where it stops being about, I need to produce this in this perfect way in order for it to be acceptable to other people and more importantly acceptable to myself. Otherwise I'll feel like a failure, otherwise I'm going to be really hard on myself, and so on and so forth. And I think that that perspective shift, hopefully that is something that people will get aligned with over time. Like you said, one of the things I focus on in my programs is body, heart, mind, spirit, the 4 core elements, because when we pay attention to those, then we start to understand what are the things that trigger us, what are the things that deplete our energy, what is the thing that makes me feel tension in my body, that makes my heart race, that makes me clench my fists or clench my teeth, right? What are the things that take me away from my personal values on a spiritual level? What are the things that move me away from my core values and make me behave in a way that I don't like? Right? So it's those kinds of things that you're looking at and thinking, okay, if I understand the way that those things impact me, then I can mitigate some of that impact by choosing my engagements. And that's all about what it is to be purposeful and to be intentional, is to be able to say, just like you said, I'm going to do a presentation. I don't feel 100% about it, but if I can give it 75%, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to say that's all right. Right. But it's also knowing when you're preparing that presentation that if you don't think you're going to get there to the end, that you have the focus on your own well-being to say, I need to pass this over to somebody else. I need to give this over to someone else because I can't do it. Right. Not right now. I'm not able to do that. It's to be able to ask for help. It's to be able to ask for support. It's to know that it's to have people that have your back. Having your own back, like you said, having people that have your back, and then you having other people's back, right? So it's about creating community and being able to use that energy in a way that is good, like is for the highest good of everyone and for your own highest good as well, right? Like you, I don't like the saying being your best self. It's like be your whole self, be your whole self, be your happy self, be your healthy self, right? Think about wellness, right? Be well. That's the thing, is to be well. So how are we able to be well? Well, we've talked about self-awareness, having connection with our body, heart, mind, and spirit, having giving ourselves permission to say what we need, having the awareness of how things impact us, and then replenishing our energy by sometimes saying no, sometimes saying not now, recognizing which situations and people cause us to deplete our energy, and then making conscious choices about how to engage them. That's a big part of it, is thinking about it. And you can almost think about this as emotional currency, right? Or energetic currency. What you can do is you think about your energy as being in a bank. So how much have you taken out? How much have you put back in? What are you saving, right? And then it's almost like, okay, well, like actual currency, you can look at what you have in the bank and you can say, you know what, I really want this, but I don't have enough money for it, so I'm not going to buy it right now. And it's exactly the same thing to look at a situation and say, well, I think I would like to engage in this situation. However, I feel like I don't have enough energy resources to actually be able to do it justice, or to be able to contribute in whatever way I feel like it. It's to be able to recognize that, right? So you want to have your, like if you think about budgeting, you want to think about having operational energy, and you want to think about having an energy cushion. right? So it's your checking and your savings, basically, right? So what are you using your energy for? How are you using it? How are you spending it? And how are you saving it? How are you replenishing it, right? The more that we think about it as something that requires our attention, something that requires our intention and purpose, something that we have control over, and something that we can actually change and affect and be able to work with, instead of being at the mercy of what happens externally, then we're able to really create that energetic balance that we need, first within ourselves and then within the larger environments that we engage in.
Oh, exactly. And just to put in, because the other part of this is body. When we eat something, how does it affect us? The number of times where we do a diet review is usually when something's causing us trouble in our body. Meanwhile, the energy that we get, like, I know I get the carb blues. I don't know, where it's like I've just recently eaten something and I know it's gonna, so how do I plan my eating when I'm doing things? Because that energy, while it may be a physical energy, it's still feeding this glorious being, right? So it's also when it comes to the kind of music that we're listening to, or the kind of, this is always a joke that, my running partner and I back in the day, and we're finishing this nice yoga stretching after, I don't know, an hour-long run. It felt really good. And we've got Linkin Park on there going, I give in. And I started laughing, going, can we maybe have something a little bit more enlightening? And the thing is that song had a really good beat. So I would occasionally listen to that when I was preparing for a race, when we were dragon boating, or Eminem listening to 8 Mile, you got one chance, which is one of the best workout songs ever, or movement songs. Because you just feel like doing this. And but it was interesting because I had to take that song out of the playlist. And that's something that I don't think we pay a lot of attention to. What kind of movies are we watching? What kind of television? What kind of, so if we're preparing to do something that's going to take us 2 or 3 days, emotional, energetic effort, are we watching like Bruce Willis blow up things in Die Hard? Or are we keeping the television off for now? Because I don't want to put anything else in there that's going to, be used even as a distraction. Maybe instead I want to listen to an Audible book, or listening to more music that's music instead of watching a television show. So these are all things that really feed our diet and feed ourself, right? And all of that has to do with energy, how we show up. The difference between, Toastmasters used to have this phrase, it's not about removing the butterflies, it's about getting the butterflies to fly in formation. We want to be able to take our energetic resources and make them work for us. We want to be able to learn what uplifts us and what calms us down. We want to learn how this beautiful self works, right? And that's what we're here to do. That's it. So that's my 2 cents. What would you like to finish up? Because I'm sure here we're talking a little bit. I love it. It's just talking, right? So
absolutely. I think you hit on a lot of good points. What we consume, whether that's culture, media, food, relationships, the books that we read, the TV that we watch, all that stuff, that all impacts our energy. It either takes away or it adds to it. And so if we do that mindfully, then we decide, then we're, making a deposit, or we're making a withdrawal, right? From our energy bank. And so if you, like for me, for example, I stopped watching the news a long time ago. it's not that I don't keep up with current affairs. I do, but I choose what I keep up with, right? I don't watch the news as it appears on television or on the media, because there is a particular there's a particular agenda that is following in terms of getting people to watch and having people emotionally react to what's happening, right? The stories that are told, what kind of stories are told, how they're told. So having that awareness lets me decide, what am I going to consume today? What is it that's going to feed me? How am I nourishing myself? Right? And that's exactly what you're talking about with the music, with whatever choices you're making about exercising or going out or eating or what have you. It's all, your energy comes from you making those choices. And so when we stop doing that reactively and do that proactively and purposefully, then we have a different outcome. We have different levels of energy. We can come to things in a more purposeful and intentional way and be able to get a better outcome than what we would if we were coming to it with a depleted sense of energy, right? So it's thinking about energy as something that we consume and something that we put out and that we have control over, and that we can choose how to use it and how we can't. Now, I know some people are probably watching this and saying, well, that's easy for you to say. I have X number of bills and I have X number of responsibilities and X number of caregiving and all this stuff that I need to do. And I'm not saying it because I don't know those things or because I don't experience those things. It's because I've already walked that path of making difficult, uncomfortable choices and dealing with other people's responses to those choices, which are not always helpful and not always supportive. But when I started to make choices more intentionally and more purposefully and more aligned with, so talking about your butterflies in formation analogy there, that you're more aligned with actually what you're here to do, what you're here to experience, what you want your life to look like, what you want to create for yourself. When you start making more decisions like that, then you're going to see a change in that energy for yourself. And you have to make some tough decisions about what to let go and what to keep, or even how much engagement to have with something or someone, right? And it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's really crappy. And sometimes you feel really bad. And I know I've been through the whole gamut of that.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, it's really important to take care of one's own energy so that you can come to the world with purpose and to create the things that you want. Because the more you get dragged along with what everybody else is doing or saying or expecting or wanting from you, the farther away you're going to continue to be from what you want and what you're creating for yourself. So that's the key about creating energetic balance, is that it's actually the most important way to get your freedom and to achieve the things that you want.
To change things, we have to make a choice, right? And I think that's one of the things, is the whole pain pleasure principle, that it's like we usually don't make any change or even look at this stuff unless something's going wrong. We don't look at our diet unless it's, unless there's something that's happening physically manifesting. And hopefully that's, I think, a lot of what we talk about. The whole reason we do what we do is it sometimes it can be challenging. Change is difficult. It's not always fun. But the difference is if not now, when? And, you can go along and be perfectly happy sitting on a couch eating a bag of potato chips every day. No judgment. Absolutely no judgment.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
Yet if you have that energy depletion, your energy is probably your first time. And then just throwing in something about grieving. Grieving is a whole energetic place unto itself.
Absolutely.
Look at, asking it is given, Esther Hicks and all that stuff. They have grieving, and then they have anger, sadness, because grief encompasses everything and it overtakes who we are. And I think that the fact that we disregard losses, it's not just death. We go start a new job, right? Even what you're doing, you're going to do a presentation. This is fabulous, right? This is exciting. It's always interesting to go in and start something new and to do something new. Even if you go back and you do a seminar 4 different times over the next 4 months, it's still going to be exciting because it's still going to be who's new in the room. I'm sharing new information. I hope everybody, like, we always have all these thoughts. But the thing is that we need to be able to respect our own, as you said, our own emotional currency. So I love that part that, it's more important for you to figure out who you are so that you can do, even if you want to sit out and just, we got a pool here during the summer. There's people that just go and they lie by the pool for an hour and a half a day. Do it. 4 hours, 10 hours, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
As long as whatever you're doing, your lack of connection to your emotional landscape regarding the choice that you're making is what makes things good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
We know that there's people that have been smoking every day since, those on the French coast of somewhere. He has been having his bourbon every day, or not his wine every day, and he smokes like 10 packs of cigarettes and he's 152. There's these stories, right, of that. And you know what? They're unapologetically who they are.
Yeah.
And that removes a whole layer of crap of the FOMO and the BOMO and the whatever mo's, that we're missing out. And it allows us to just, however close we can get to being fully present. God knows I'm not perfect, not even close. I still have all those things where I still try to manage. But the one thing I've learned is if I'm not feeling it, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. And I think that that's the thing we come back to again and again. And I know that I've said those words quite a number of times today about purpose and intention and being present and making choices and all that stuff. But ultimately it is and ultimately where that all comes from is giving ourselves permission to just be, to not be apologizing for who we are, and to not be looking for validation from other people for the choices that we're making. We are perfectly capable and we make choices, and whether they're I wouldn't even put that moral judgment of being right or wrong. I would just say we make the choices that we make because we are looking to have a particular experience. And that experience, we may find, later on down the line that wasn't the best experience for us, but it was a choice that we made. And to be able to stand by that choice and say, yeah, I made that choice. Maybe it wasn't the best choice maybe I could have made another choice, but to not think of that as being validating or invalidating, to just say it was just a choice. Mm-hmm. That's the choice I made. That's the experience I had. And with that information, now I'm going to make a different choice the next time. So it's to remove the whole morality and validation piece from the energy. Like, just imagine how much freer and how much energy we would all have if we didn't spend time worrying about moral judgments and validation for ourselves, or invalidation for that matter, or that we would apply and actively use those to affect other people, right? How much energy would everybody be saving? How much happier could we possibly be? How much freer would we be, right? So what are you putting your energy? The question for today then, to end it, is where are you putting your energy?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where are you putting it? What are you getting? Where do you want to be putting it? Right?
And that's it. I'm just writing this down because I am going to put that on the post.
Great.
So yes, and again, I don't know how, yes, we do like to talk, don't we?
We do. 'cause
So
we're
I
just
wish you all the best for
Thank
your upcoming, again, Aisha's fabulous. She does equity and diversity work. She does the Purposeful Path. And this is all wonderful coaching programs. And along these lines, for what I offer, of course, the grief recovery method, we've got new sessions just starting up. But
which Gwenda's
I'm
amazing at.
oh, thank
Amazing.
you.
I say this from my own experience, just amazing. Brilliant. Yeah,
Thank
very
you.
safe, very loving, very kind, very compassionate, and very focused to get you where you want to go. So it's not just the fuzzies. It's like fuzzy and focus.
Yes.
So amazing program. Thank you, Gwenda.
Thank you. I like to say I've got the, the boot, the kid boot, instead of hitting you with the kid glove, it's like the kid boot. So it's not really as hard as the other one when it's kicking you in the butt. But the other thing that I'm focusing on now is this courageous connection, which is just a mini program that gives you a number of different places to look at, and then it would be a great counterpart to A, get into the grief recovery method, or B, get into the Purposeful Path, where it's like, oh, okay, I'm just becoming aware of who I am and how I show up. What else am I going to do with this once I pick up the mantle of my own responsibility for my life?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Oh,
love it.
That sounds good. We got so many. I got like little notes here.
Love it. Here, high five.
High five. Okay, hold on.
Okay.
There. Yeah, it didn't really work. Well, thank you again for a wonderful Just Talking. And this is being shown on Sunday at 4:30, and we will be back again the following week. I'm going to be back with Heather, and hopefully we'll give you more of a schedule of what those grief recovery topics are. But again, we've got grief recovery methods coming on the 20th, or starting on this Sunday. We'll be having Sunday, Monday, or Wednesday classes that you can attend. It's an 8-week course. Again, I think everybody should do it. That's why I'm doing this. This is way better than any kind of therapy. It allows you to sort of take a look at your life, learn some tools that help you actually process. And it's a great process to actually see how your energy ebbs and flows too, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
So there you go. So I wish you all the best. I know it'll be fabulous. And thank you everybody that's been watching this. And we will see you again next week on Just Talking.
Bye. Bye, Gwenda.